Hey, what's up everybody? Let's get right into patch 26.26.0, which is actually the patch where we see a new skin for Aya as well as the new character Cathy. We see all of her numbers, we see what all of her skills do, all that good stuff. So let's get right into it. So, we have a new character, Cathy. Lumia Island Doctor is finally ready to open up her clinic in Lumia Island. Note, Cathy will not be available in ranked for about a week or so. This is pretty standard for all new characters. New characters that come out in the game are not available immediately for ranked until they've had the time to sort of briefly test them, see if they're overtuned, undertuned, and then after about a week or so, they will open them up to be used in ranked. So pretty standard stuff. So her passive, Under the Knife. Under the Knife, when Cathy deals damage to enemies, she wounds them 20% attack power true damage for 30 seconds. So that's like a ratio. 20% of her attack power true damage for 3 seconds. Normal attacks apply 1 stack of wounded, and skills apply 2 stacks. Upon reaching 5 stacks, enemies are severely wounded and take true damage equal to 1% plus a 20% attack power ratio of their max HP for 6 seconds. Cathy deals additional 10/25/40% crit strike damage to severely wounded enemies. So basically what that passive means is when you're hitting people, you're going to be applying bleeds. This bleed is not just a attack damage bleed, it also will be dealing some true damage at some point if you're hitting 5 stacks. Additionally, the more you have your passive leveled up, the more damage you're going to be dealing with critical strikes against severely wounded enemies. So it's promoting attacking fast, getting your skills out, as well as having some crit in your kit. Post-op, her other passive. Hitting enemies with a skill grants her a shield, absorbing 100/165/220 with a 40% ratio damage for 2 seconds. Increasing her movement speed by 20 to 25 to 30% and dealing... Wait. Okay, that's not... Wait, is that movement speed? So previously they've actually had mistakes with the translation on movement speed actually meaning attack speed, so I don't know for sure if this is actually a movement speed boost or if this is a potentially an attack speed boost. In any case, it's boosting something by 20 up to 30%, and dealing critical hits reduces the cooldown of post-op for 1 second. So essentially, similar to a lot of other characters, she has a shield when she auto-attacks somebody, and it has a built-in cooldown as well. The cooldown is 20 to 18 to 16 seconds, and it's reduced every time you deal critical damage. Double bypass, her Q. Cathy dashes to the target, dealing 30 to 150 with a 70% attack power ratio damage. Attacking an enemy in close range deals 50% extra damage and reduces post-op's cooldown by 1 second. That is again the shield passive. Damage increases with critical strike damage. So once again, this is like the third instance of her kit benefiting from crit strike damage. If Cathy severely wounds an enemy, the cooldown of double bypass is reduced by 80%. That's the first passive when reaching 50 stacks, or sorry, not 50 stacks, 5 stacks on an enemy. The cooldown is 12 and it goes down to 10 seconds. That's very little cooldown change just from leveling it up, but it's a slight cooldown reduction. Also, the SP cost increases over time from 50 to 90, and the range is 3 meters. You can see the animation for this on the GIFs that they released, I think it was like 2 days ago or something, basically showing what all of her skills like visually look like. Amputation, her W. Cathy swings her saw in front of her, dealing 70 to 210 with a 50% ratio damage. Enemies hit are slowed for 2 seconds by 30%. Enemies hit by the outer range are grounded for 1 second. So grounded is actually a mechanic that they haven't really officially keyworded, I believe, in the past. I'm pretty sure grounding is the same as Adriana's W. My guess is that grounding is that you can't use movement skills if you get grounded. So basically, if you hit someone close to you, you're going to slow them in a cone. If you hit them on the outer edge of your cone, similar to how Lennox's Q works, you're going to be grounding them, meaning that they probably can't use their mobility skills for a second. So it's not that long. Cooldown is 16 down to 12 seconds. The SP cost is 70 down up to 90, and the range is about 4 meters, so it's pretty long. And the cone angle is 80 degrees. The outer range is from 3 meters to 4 meters. Suture, her E. Cathy throws her suture thread, dealing 30 to 70 with a 30% attack power ratio damage to the first enemy hit and rooting them for 0.5 seconds. Threads can pass through and hit another enemy, pulling them together, dealing 30 to 70 with the same damage, same ratio damage, and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. What I'm not sure about is whether or not this damage hits twice. I want to say it does. So the first hit hitting somebody would apply that damage, but if it hits another person, will apply that damage again to the initial target? I'm not sure. But in any case, threats can also pass through and hit a wall, pushing the enemy to the wall, dealing the same exact damage and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. The cooldown is 24 down to 16, the SP cost is a flat 70 at all ranks, and the range is 5 meters. So this is her main like lockdown CC. She essentially has the ability to like, in a point and so it's like a point and click skill shot, and if it hits somebody, it roots them for a very, very brief amount of time. But if you do manage to get it chained with another person or against a wall, then it's going to be a lot more effective. You're seeing a 1.5 second either stun with 2 targets or 1.5 second stun against a wall. In any case, this is actually extremely powerful because 1.5 seconds is a really, really long CC time in this game. In particular, 1.5 seconds is sort of where they're settling for their like major CC value. So this is actually huge to have this on a regular skill and not even on an ultimate. Emergency surgery, her R, passive. If Cathy revives a downed ally, she creates a healing zone, recovering her allies' max HP by 5% per second for 2 to 4 seconds, depending on the rank of the R. Cathy, this is the activated version of it. Cathy charges in the targeted direction, dealing 120 up to 280 with a 60 attack power ratio damage based on the enemy's missing HP, maxing at 300 up to 700. So it's an execute with a 150 attack power ratio as well as huge base values, especially at higher ranks. It causes severe wounds, which is going to synergize well with her Q, and the max damage dealt. Wait, oh, so there is actually a cap to how much damage it can deal. Max damage dealt at 25% HP. Wait, hold on. I'm not entirely sure what this means. Does this mean that all of the damage in total can only possibly deal 25% max HP? I don't know. But in any case, this skill seems incredibly strong. Also, allies in range recover 200 with a 60% attack power ratio. They recover 200 HP. Allies with less than 40% HP recover 300 HP with a 90% ratio instead. So essentially, it's a big sweeping move. It deals a ton of damage, and it has execute properties to it against all enemies in the dash, as well as healing allies that are nearby. I assume they have to be in the dash radius, but I'm not entirely sure. In any case, this skill seems honestly kind of nuts. That being said, the cooldown in early ranks is pretty long. It's 150 and it goes down to 90 seconds. So it's pretty long in general. So you're gonna have to really like use it when you need it the most. It also seems really strong in team modes. Like I see this being really good in squads because you're going to be hitting a bunch of people and it gives you the extra chance of healing allies. The SP cost is pretty steep at 120 up to 150, and the passive range is about so this is the passive radius of the circle that it creates when you revive somebody is only 1.5 meters. It's not very big, so it's possible for people to just walk out of it after they get revived. It's not like they revive. It's not like you're going to revive somebody and then they're going to get a buff that heals them for a few seconds. No. It creates a little circle where I don't know if it's just that one ally can heal, but in general, it means that there's going to be healing there. It's just not very big though. You have to kind of stay in it in order to get it. Dash range is pretty long, at the minimum being 3 meters and the maximum being 6 meters, and the width is 3 meters. It's pretty big. All right, that's it for Cathy. Honestly, like Cathy, I'm not even going to say Cathy seems insane. I'm not going to say Cathy seems underwhelming either. She's one of these characters that we're going to have to just see how she plays to really evaluate her truly. I think Cathy seems, in general, pretty good. Does she necessarily outshine other characters already in the game? Does she power creep anybody? Does she replace anybody? I kind of don't think so. I feel like she has her own niche. A lot of people want to compare her to Jackie because she's a dagger wielder, and because, well, thematically they both have bleeds, they're both kind of similar. But here's the thing, Jackie has far more mobility than Cathy. Cathy has no movement skill outside of her ultimate, so she's very, like, not good at running away, and I don't even think she's particularly that amazing at chasing either. She has the E, which is really good CC, but I feel like this kind of thing that is only going to be useful if the person stands still and chooses to fight you. Her ultimate seems insane, but it's on a long cooldown. So it could be one of those incredibly high impact ultimates, but you're really going to feel not having it when it's on cooldown. So that's it for Cathy. Let's go on to the rest of the patch. New skin, On Duty Aya. We've seen the skin preview before. It's like Police Officer Aya. She looks pretty cute. I'm a big fan. System. Tree of Life spawn indicator. The timer that shows When the Tree of Life will spawn at the spawn location is now better. There's now security and anti-cheat enhancements. Core security features have been improved, and a more robust anti-cheat method has been applied. Anti-cheat tools will also collect more patterns of illegal programs and improve detection. Save plan improvements. If you don't have a save plan already for your character, you will be automatically provided with the most used plan. Save plans used like this do not increase the number of uses, and this feature will be replaced by the recommendation score upon its introduction. Interesting. So basically what this means is that new players are not going to be held back necessarily just by the recommended plans that are given by Nimble Neuron. No shade to Nimble Neuron. Not saying that their recommended plans aren't good or anything, because honestly some of them are actually quite solid. But the thing is that the recommended plans do not adjust for metas. The recommended plans do not update as things get nerfed, as things get buffed. They don't really change dynamically pretty much at all. So they're never going to be cutting edge, and they're never going to be on top of the meta. That being said, the shared plans that people upload and get used, they tend to be a little bit better at reflecting what the best builds for the character currently are. Not saying they're perfect, not saying they even represent the best builds, but in general, they will give you a better taste of what the best, or at least most popular build is, much better than recommended builds ever did. So this is a good thing in general, especially for new players. Solo/squad/duo checkbox functionality in the save plans has better clarity, and in cases where no routes are loaded, occasionally due to a network bug, a button to reload it will be provided. Other improvements: all LP, even those earned after reaching 100 points, will now be given to you once you are promoted and ranked. You can now modify the start matching shortcuts F5 through F11. I'm a huge fan of this because I actually was forced to rebind a bunch of my streamer binds because I used like F5 through F12 extensively, and then I couldn't anymore because it would just cue me for games. Like I couldn't mute my microphone because it would put me in a discrete normal squad queue. It drove me crazy. I'd rebind everything, so now I can put it back. That's a great change. I'm very happy for that. Drink some water real quick. Okay, we've got some character specific changes. Luke was falling off a bit too much in the late game, so let's get him some nice new mops or something. Defense, he's basically getting more defense per level, not by much. It's going from 1.8 up to 2.0, and elbow grease, his W, is gaining 2% attack speed on the attack speed increase. Not a very big change, but it's just a slight buff in general. Shukai changes. Shukai is large, so were the differences in results depending on which weapon he used. We're adjusting the damage of his skills along with his cooldowns so that his performance isn't skewed too much depending on his weapon, and making it so that you'll have to make more meaningful choices with your skill leveling. His Q, Lost in the Sauce, is going to be losing 10 flat power at all ranks with no other changes. His W, the damage is going to be not changed for the flat, but the percent attack power ratio is actually being increased by 10% from 50% up to 60%. So essentially shifting some of the power away from his Q onto his W, but his W is already pretty good, so I'm not really sure about this, but we'll see how this plays out. Walk It Off his E, the cooldown is being increased, and now this is the biggest change I've been seeing for Shukai. This is significant. His E is gaining 5 whole freaking seconds at rank 1. On its cooldown. 5 whole seconds, meaning that he can't just put 1 point into his E and have that be like, you know, all gravy. It's not great anymore. It's going to be up to 21 seconds on his mobility skill at just 1 point. So if he wants to have it be closer to the value that it was before, he's going to need to be ranking it up a lot sooner. That being said, at max rank, it's only a 1 second difference, so it's not that big of a nerf for the late game, but that is a huge nerf for the early game, and honestly for the mid game too, because I don't think a lot of Shukais were necessarily maxing E early. I'm personally a huge fan of this change. Also, the damage dealt on his E is losing 10 flat damage per rank, but it's gaining 10% on its ratio. So again, shifting the power a little bit away from the flat amount and more towards the attack power ratio, so that it's more beneficial for Shukais to build actual offensive stats instead of just sitting on these really high base stats. Anyways, Shoichi, small change. His W is going to be losing 1 second on its cooldown at all ranks. So at rank 1, it's going from 17 seconds cooldown down to 16, and at the max rank, it's going from 13 down to 12. Not a huge change, but it's something kind of nice to give to Shoichi. Adriana changes. Adriana will now have more equal power across all modes, solo/duo/squad. Pyromaniac, her passive, the SP recovery from lit fires is being increased by 0.5 at all ranks, going from, it was previously 0.5 at rank 1 to not just 1%, and then at max rank it's going from 1.5 up to 2%. Cocktail Party, her R, is actually getting a buff. It's losing 2 seconds at max rank on its cooldown, going down from 26 seconds down to 24. This is actually a really big buff to late game Adriana, which I already thought late game Adriana was kind of her strongest part. Now it's just even better. She's gonna be throwing out her R way more often, so kind of interesting. Honestly, kind of interesting. I'm not so sure about this, but it's interesting. Yeah, I'm not super like averse to Adriana buffs, but I'm not sure if it was her R that needed the buffs. I feel like her R is like kind of the best part of her kit at the moment. So I don't know, maybe this is it, maybe not, we'll see. Aya changes. We're adjusting some of the skill damage to help reduce the difference in power between weapon type selections. So double shot, her Q, the damage is being increased at rank 1. The flat amount is being increased at rank 1 from 20 up to 40. So doubling its early game power, but at max rank, it's exactly the same at 220. So essentially they're making the early ranks of Q actually do even more damage for Aya, which is kind of nuts because it seemed pretty good already. But that being said, I don't know if Aya's, the builds that were really standing out for Aya for me were mainly like, it's mainly AR and a little bit of sniper. AR doesn't really care about the Q, so this is fine for that. Sniper does actually use the Q, but I feel like most people were maxing W anyways, so this change is probably fine. I don't think Aya was particularly oppressive outside of AR, so I think this is personally fine for me. ISIL changes. Semtex Bomb will now make it a little bit easier for you to see. The vision range when on the ground is actually being increased from 4 to 5. Not a huge change. Emma changes. Although strong in the late game, Emma is still coming out a bit behind in comparison to her counterparts. This is probably based on stats that we can't see. But I know a lot of people have been saying Emma kind of feels really good at the moment. Emma in pretty good shape, and I've been hearing a lot of groans and moans about this buff. This is a buff for Emma, and I feel like a lot of people don't feel like she needs to get buffed. Me personally, I'm okay with buffing her early game because I think her early game is still pretty weak. Buffing the late game, I don't know, and buffing what they did, which was base SP going from 430 up to 450, totally fine with that. But Bunny Morph, her E, her polymorph is being buffed. The movement speed reduction is being increased from 0.7 up to 0.8. It's not a huge change, and I don't think it's going to break the character in any way, but that is just a buff that does affect all stages of the game for Emma. So I'm not sure about that one, but we'll see how that ends up playing out as well. There's a lot of changes in this patch that we aren't really going to be able to see how actually important they are on paper until we see them in action. Yuki, higher tiers of play across all modes. The Tranquil Blade struggles. I'm gonna, okay, yep, yep, okay. Dashing Gentleman, his E. The cooldown is being reduced at all ranks by 1 whole second. I really don't agree with this change. Damage. The damage is being decreased at rank 1 by 5, but it's being increased at all the way up to rank 5 at from 270 up to 285 with no changes to the ratio. So they're basically increasing the damage at every rank 3 and above. So at the first rank, it's very, very slightly weaker. At the second rank, it's exactly the same. And starting at rank 3, it is going to be 5 damage stronger, then 10 damage stronger, then 15 damage stronger at max rank. So it's just a straight buff to Yuki, the way I see it. And honestly, I genuinely think Yuki is in fantastic shape at the moment. So maybe, I don't know about this. I don't know how I feel about this personally. I hope to see more shifts in Yuki's power that don't benefit his mobility. Right now, one of my biggest issues with Yuki is actually that his mobility is far too high for any character. He has the ability to dash incredibly long distances, and if that dash connects, it like goes behind you, and he can reset that dash with his W. He has insanely high mobility, and he can get on top of pretty much everybody and not let them go. And it's really frustrating to play against for almost every character. It doesn't help too that his dual blade damage is insanely high right now, as it's giving you like double, I think it's like double attack power ratios with his Q. It's absolutely absurd damage on his dual blade Qs. So I don't know about this. I don't know about this, man. My experience with Yuki is that he's been insane, so I don't know about this. Anyways, Zahir. Zahir's pretty balanced across all Qs, but just a sliver too strong. They're basically doing a slight change, making the duration on his passive be 5 seconds instead of 5.5. Fiora. The Graceful Fencer performs well regardless of weapon type, tier, or game mode. Instead of only lowering her early game power, we're adjusting it so she scales about the same. They're lowering her early game power, her base attack power, from 37 down to 33, and they're increasing the ratio on her, increasing the scaling attack power of her character per level from 3.2 up to 3.4. So basically, less attack power early, more attack power, or not more attack power, less attack power early, and then reaching back to her current state in the late game. Heart, they're making a really, really good change for Heart. It's a change that's been requested for a very, very long time. Heart's E will now prioritize players. That's her dash that shoots out one little bolt to the nearest target. Instead of targeting animals, it targets players first, which is extremely important because Heart had a lot of trouble getting past like animal roadblocks, and a way you played against Heart, a way to play it around Heart, was to like body block with like a boar or some other animal nearby so that she couldn't actually do damage to you. And it was really frustrating for the Heart player, feeling like you really had no control over any fights because all of your skills would just go straight into an animal. Now it actually prioritizes a player. I'm a big fan of this change. I would love to see more changes like this in the future. Hyunwoo. Rewarding the high school heavyweight a bit more when landing his E. First attack, his E, damage when hitting the wall is the same. However, it's gaining a 15% defense ratio. So that's kind of interesting. Just a little bit more damage based on your defense. Pretty big change, honestly, and you might be seeing a lot more tank Hyuns coming out and still doing damage by building full tank because they have another defense ratio on his E now. This is pretty good. This is a pretty big change, honestly. And Hejin has shown to be not great at gaining MMR at top tiers, and overall, they're increasing her base defense by 3. We're seeing some slight duo/squad mode adjustments. I don't want to go through all of these necessarily because they're sort of kind of not that interesting to go over, but essentially, we're seeing Adriana deal less damage in duos. No, sorry. Wait, what? No, we're just seeing Adriana do less damage in solos? It's not specifying. I'm assuming it's supposed to specify, but whatever. Yeah, a lot of changes to team mode stuff. I wouldn't read too much into a lot of these. The only ones that are really interesting to me is the fact that Shukai is actually going to be taking less damage in squad with both dagger and spear. He's going down from 100% damage taken down to 97%. This is a buff to Shukai. This means that he's taking less damage in squads with both of his weapons. Now, me personally, I don't really get this because the thing that sort of stands out about Shukai in team modes is that he gets a billion HP just from farming. Like you can funnel stacks on him very easily. With a team of 3, it's very easy to funnel stacks on your Shukai. So your Shukais in squads are actually super tanky. So the idea that he's getting damage reduction built into him as well, I don't know about that. And to me, that is a little bit strange, and I don't know. I really don't know about that. But keep that in mind when playing as Shukai in squad modes. He now takes less damage in general. That's really it for the character-specific changes. Again, if you want to read all the specific ones, feel free, but they're kind of just not that interesting to go over. Now let's talk about something more juicy, something that's actually been one of the most exciting changes, one of my most requested changes in this entire game in terms of the game's balance, and here it is. Glove skill uppercut, D. The damage is being increased. Whoa, hold on. The damage attack power ratio is being increased from 100 at rank 1 to 120, and at rank 2, it's being increased from 200% up to 220. Now, it doesn't stop there. It's not just a buff to glove skill. Glove skill can no longer crit. Now, that is huge. Some of the best Hyun builds at the moment, and Dylan in general has always benefited from this as well. sort of work off the idea of using glove skill to do insane massive crits. Now it can no longer do that, and that is a huge nerf to glove characters in general, but it needed to happen for the health of the game. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of clips of Dylan's and Hyunwoo's just doing absolutely insane damage with glove skill. Like, it could crit for upwards of 1,000 plus damage, and it was true damage. So it was completely broken. It was super unhealthy for the game, so it's finally being taken out, thank God. White Claw Punch, the crit chance is being increased from 20% up to 22%, and Buddha Palm is gaining 3% more CDR, going from 15% up to 18%. Dagger changes. Dagger D skill. The movement speed while cloaked is being decreased at rank 1 from 40% down to 30%, but rank 2 is staying the same at 40%. The current health damage that was tacked onto it also going from 10% down to 8%, so just a slight nerf to Dagger D skill in general. Joyous. The movement speed, the 0.3% movement speed, or sorry, not percent, the 0.3 flat movement speed on Joyous, God knows why it even got that in the first place, is being toned down after, like, I think it's just one patch, from 0.3 down to 0.2. This is a change that everyone could have seen coming a mile away, because it was absolutely absurd to give a weapon 0.3 movement speed. That is insane how much movement speed they gave to this weapon for actually no reason. So there it is. Joyous got nerfed from 0.3 down to 0.2. Nobody's surprised. Bat changes. Full swing, the D skill. This is one of the weaker weapon skills in the game. I'm pretty sure most people would agree with that. The knockback range is being increased from 4 meters up to 4.5, and the range on it is being increased as well from 1.8 meters up to 2. The reason why this change is significant is because this weapon skill in general is just underperforming. Additionally, now that Monkey King Bar has that additional attack range on it, it's making this weapon skill like less... It's way less intuitive, because now you're very easily outranging it. If you have a Monkey King Bar and you're autoing someone at max range, I'm pretty sure if you just slam the D skill, you're not going to actually hit your target, and that's why it's important that it's getting a little bit more range to make this thing actually connect, because it should be more reasonable. Crossbow changes. Heavy crossbow, the one that builds into ballista, is getting its damage decreased from 66 down to 63, because you could build this in just one zone, so it's good to nerf these griefing weapons. You'll be seeing the same change coming up in the spear section, as you see that Pike got taken down from 57 down to 53. Nunchuck changes. The normal attack, the extra normal attack damage per mastery level is being decreased from 3.5% down to 3.2%, because basically late game auto attack Nunchuck was just sort of overperforming. Sniper changes. NTW, TAC 50, and Polaris all losing a little bit of attack power. I swear to God, Polaris has been nerfed every single patch for like several patches now, but in any case, NTW from 100 down to 92, TAC 50 from 140 down to 134, and Polaris from 120 down to 117. Throw changes. Ruthenium Marble, the skill amp has gone up once again from 68% up to, 26% up to 28%. I don't know about this, man. I'm not even saying Ruthenium was actually broken. I think Ruthenium is still and will always be held back by its absolutely abysmal build routing. It requires a lighter, it requires a gemstone, it requires a pickaxe, and it requires rubber and a nail. And I know I just said the recipe, that's because all 5 of those pieces are just awful to get. It's a 3-zone minimum with a bunch of contested resources, so it's always going to suck to build this thing, so it's always going to underperform because you can't consistently finish it, yada yada yada. I rest my case. The point is, they're buffing Ruthenium again. Is this enough to make Ruthenium overtake Shurikens? We'll have to wait and see, but my initial expectation is that Shuriken will still sort of overperform over Ruthenium, simply because Caltrops is so much better than Smoke Bomb or Smoke Screen, whatever it is. The smoke skill is not as good as Caltrops. Caltrops is insane. So until then, Ruthenium, it's held back by its weapon skill. Spear changes. Weapon mastery. The extra normal attack damage per level is being decreased from 4.2% to 3.8%. The skill amp per level is being increased, however, from 1% up to 1.2%. This is kind of a stealth Shukai buff, actually. I don't think most people actually caught this. This is actually kind of a stealth Shukai buff. Spear of Longinus decreased attack power from 140 down to 135, and like I mentioned, Pike, the blue spear, is being decreased from 57 down to 53. Bow changes. Scorch Bow. Attack power decreased, thank you, game, decreased from 25 down to 22. This weapon was too strong when you built it early. You could build it in just one zone, and you could grieve people incredibly early. It was obnoxious. So good thing that they nerfed this. Armor. They're adding a new stat to the game. What? They're adding a new stat to the game. Interesting. There's a new flat skill damage reduction stat being introduced, and there are 2 new items being introduced to the game as well. Decorative Flintlock and Buccaneer Doubloon. So, to check out that first thing about the flat skill damage reduction, Mithril Armor is being buffed? Question mark? Depends on your definition of a buff. The defense is being decreased by 6, from 69 down to 63, but it's gaining 10 flat skill damage reduction, making it the only gear in the game that has flat skill damage reduction. This is a huge change. Flat skill damage reduction is incredibly game altering, as flat amp is one of the best stats in the game, and flat skill damage in general is one of the most impactful stats in the game. So having something that reduces it and only having it on one piece of gear could be pretty game changing. You might be seeing a ton more mithril armor because that could end up mathing out to be an insane amount of skill damage reduction. In any case, it's a very interesting change, and I'd love to keep my eye on this to see sort of how it ends up shaking out. Arm changes. Shah Jahan is getting its attack power back that it lost, going from 25 attack power up to 28. And let's talk about the new accessories. So we have Decorative Flintlock, which is going to be building into Buccaneer Doubloon. Decorative Flintlock is an uncommon. The recipe is a pistol plus a ribbon, and the attack power is 10. The lifesteal is 8%. So kind of a little interesting green accessory that you can craft. Pistol plus ribbon. I'm trying to think if there's any place you can one zone that. There used to be pistols in Pawn, but I think there isn't anymore. I'm not exactly sure about that. I think pistols and I want to say spears swapped places at one point between Hotel and Pawn. I could be wrong about that though. Don't quote me on that. They shifted at one point, but in any case, neat little accessory. Now, there's the thing that builds into it. The rare version is Buccaneer Doubloon. It is a decorative flintlock plus a kitchen knife. The attack power is 15, lifesteal 8%, and it has 8% crit strike chance. So nothing really changes much from the original other than 5 more attack power and 8% crit strike chance. What this essentially is a version of Moonlight Pendant that doesn't require RNG items, but it also comes with some crit chance. It loses a lot of its lifesteal, it loses a little bit of attack power, but it gets crit strike chance instead. This is pretty interesting. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's insane or that it's amazing, because the numbers seem kind of low. 8% lifesteal, not too huge. 8% crit strike chance, not too huge, but using them to supplement a build to give yourself a little bit extra lifesteal, a little bit extra crit strike chance, and of course 15 attack power as well, not requiring a Moonlight Pendant. It's a pretty cool piece. Also, it's the first ever lifesteal piece that is not a spell amp based piece or a rare RNG piece like Moonlight Pendant. So it's interesting that it's in the game. It's another option for builds. I like having more options in general, so I'm a big fan of this. Food and drink changes. We're looking into food again, stuff that doesn't heal enough for the material cost. Curry. This is boiling water plus curry powder. Used to be 3x 480, now it's going to be 3x 520. This was pretty underwhelming in general because 3x 480 is the same recovery amount as honey garlic pickle, which is a green. It doesn't require lighters, all sorts of reasons why honey garlic pickle was actually outshining stuff like curry and grilled Chilean sea bass, which has the exact same result of a 3x 480. Curry got buffed from 480 up to 520. Grilled Chilean sea bass is still 3x 480, so I'm curious to see if that will ever get buffed in the future, seeing as curry just got buffed right here. Water bottle changes as well. This is water plus glass, not to be confused with the water that you start with, being increased from 350 SP up to 380. Area changes. Adjustment of the map is a huge undertaking, so we're doing it a little by little to examine any potential unforeseen consequences. Some steps, like adding spawn points in boxes, will come with the next update. Spawn points. Spawn points are now more evenly distributed in some areas. Alley. There's a spawn point at the center intersection. So I assume this is talking about spawn points that are shifting locations or maybe getting removed altogether. I'm not entirely sure. There's one spawn in alley that's been driving me absolutely crazy lately, which is the trash bag spawn that's by the chickens in the south center side of the map. I absolutely loathe that spawn. You get one trash bag next to you, and that's it. Nothing else. You have to walk all the way up to the center area where there's actually containers. It's the worst spawn in the map, and I don't understand why it hasn't been removed when they've talked so many times about removing terrible spawns, and yet things like that are still there. So I'm hoping to see that that is the spawn that they're addressing, because it does sound like it is. The center intersection, there's no way they're not talking about that spawn. So they're hopefully addressing awful spawns like that. Hotel spawns also has some pretty awful ones. The ones above and below the fountain are really terrible. Like, sure, it's better than the trash bag spawn, but it's still not very good, and anything that isn't the main building spawn is pretty awful in hotel, so that's being addressed as well. Cemetery, two spawn points near the hospital road, and in temple, there's a spawn point by the security console. Material amount changes. There's some new items, so we're going to adjust the materials as so. This is basically some materials that are needed for the Buccaneer doubloon that are being increased and decreasing some of the stuff that we weren't really using before, like snares and needles and bamboo. Basically, more kitchen knives in dock, more kitchen knives in hotel, and more kitchen knives in temple. Keep in mind, though, they didn't increase the number of pistols. So is this really going to be super impactful for the Buccaneer doubloon? Who knows? We'll see. But keep in mind, knives are also being taken by all the dual swords players as well. They're also being taken for traps. So more knives in general is very good. And also sea/sand adjustment at beach. Nice joke, Aesop. Nice joke. I like it. The beach has been adjusted to prevent things like skills looking like they hit, but they didn't, etc. The sea level has risen a bit to compensate for the changes. This adjustment will change the boundaries of the movable areas near the ocean side of the beach. I have literally no idea what this will look like, but essentially, the game actually has verticality, and not everyone quite knows that. The game has slopes, the game has verticality in general, and that can mess with skill shots in a major way, and beach was one of the biggest sort of offenders of this. If you shot like a Nadine Q at your target, there was a good chance, even though your reticule was perfectly lined up on them, it would just soar over their head, it would go wide, it wouldn't work whatsoever, and it's only because of verticality. So hopefully by adjusting this, they're going to be making verticality less of an issue. I'm a huge fan of this change, but we'll see how it physically looks. I actually have no idea what they're talking about in terms of what they're going to change. Are they going to make the actual beach part raised up or lower down? I have no idea, but I'm curious to see what it's going to look like. Aside from that, there's just some bug fixes. A lot of bug fixes, but that's going to be it for this patch notes discussion. I'm sorry this one came out a little bit late. I had an appointment this morning, so I was really busy. Couldn't do it live last night like I normally like to do. But in any case, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for checking out the patch notes with me. I'm really excited to see how Cathy plays, and I'm really excited to see the Aya skin in action. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. If you have any explicit thoughts about the patch, anything in particular that really stood out to you, I'd love to hear what you have to say. But in any case, that's going to be it for me. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll catch you guys later.